You can't hurt me. Master your mind and defy the odds. In this video, we're going to take a look at the best-selling book by David Goggins called You Can't Hurt Me. For me, David Goggins is an amazing example of the possibilities that we all have to master our mind, to get out of our own way, and to achieve our greatness. Look, if you're the sort of person that you've been challenged by your mind, if you really feel that you haven't made the progress that you would like to make in this life, then this video is for you. But let's start off by looking at who is David Goggins. David Goggins is a former Navy SEAL. He's an ultra marathon runner and motivational speaker. He was born on February 17th in 1975 in Buffalo, New York. And he grew up in a very difficult environment, facing poverty, abuse, and racism. But despite these challenges, he found refuge in sport and he eventually joined the United States Air Force. He then went on to serve in various missions around the world, including Iraq and Afghanistan. After leaving the military, David Goggins discovered his passion for ultra-marathon running and began competing in extreme endurance events. He has completed numerous 100-mile races, 24-hour timed events, and other grueling competitions. He is known for his intense training and his ability to push himself to the limit, both physically and mentally. He has written the book, You Can't Hurt Me, Master Your Mind and Defy the Odds, which details his life and provides lessons on how to overcome adversity and achieve success. He is widely regarded as one of the toughest and most inspiring individuals in the world, and he continues to motivate and inspire people all over the world. A truly inspiring person, and in this video, I really want to give you the opportunity to look at David Goggins and think, how could I be more like him? I think often what happens is we see a separation between what these people are and who they've become. We see that as it's inspirational, but how could we be like them? And I'm not suggesting that you go out and compete in a 100-mile race, but just rather look at who could you actually become. But it wasn't always like this for David Goggins. Take a moment to listen to part of his life story.
You know what? I grew up not that guy. They see me now as the guy that with his shirt off who can do 4,030 pull-ups in 17 hours, who can run 205 miles in 39 hours, who can do all this crazy shit. But what they don't understand is they don't understand the journey that it took me to get to this point. My dad beat the shit out of me when I was growing up. My dad owned skating rinks, he owned bars, he ran prostitutes from Canada to Buffalo, New York. My dad was a big-time pimp, big-time hustler. Anything bad about a person, he was that kind of guy. Beat the shit out of me, beat the shit out, out of my mom. There was an incident one time when my mom got knocked out on top of the stairs and he dragged her down the stairs by her hair. In my mind, I was always afraid. My whole life I was afraid, but I had this fucking voice, this conscience that would always be battling me, saying, hey, you gotta get up and do something. I didn't want to do shit. And I have a big time learning disability because my dad didn't believe in us going to school. So when I went to school, my learning disability, I had social anxiety. I was just a jacked up kid from living in this tortured home. So all the insecurities I had when I was a kid with my father, it just got worse and worse and worse. And the shit haunted me. And that voice that I talked about, it kept talking louder and louder and louder, but I was doing nothing about it.
It's so fascinating when you hear him talk about that voice in his head. And with all the YouTube videos that we've made, there are many things that we will repeatedly say. And one of those is, look, a great life, it doesn't just happen by chance, it happens by design, but it all starts with stopping. It all starts with looking at the experience of being ourselves. It all starts with some form of accountability. And what he calls in the book, the accountability mirror. Look, I had a coach for 16 years of my life. He was like Mr. Miyagi from The Karate Kid. I traveled the world with him, and I never forget, he always used to say to me, Pete, how do you feel about where you are right now? And I found that question really quite difficult because it made me stop and look at myself. And most people don't want to stop and look at themselves. In fact, there have been studies that show that people would prefer an electric shock rather than actually stopping and being on their own with their own thoughts. But it's only when we stop we can really look at what is going on. And I love what David Goggins talks about when he talks about the live autopsy. Look, when you die, there's probably going to be an autopsy where they try and work out how you actually died. But how about doing a type of autopsy today when you look at what you're doing, because maybe some of what you're doing is killing you before your time, and maybe there are things that maybe you need to address. So take a moment to listen to what David Goggins says about the accountability mirror.
The accountability mirror is something that I kind of came up with in high school. Like I said, I started shaving my head when I was 16, and I got caught up in trying to impress so many people because no one liked me. So I developed so many different identities. Let me sag my pants. You know, let me pull my pants up. Let me talk this way or act this way or be this way or whatever the hell it may be. God, dog, so many different things I did to try to fit in with so many different groups that when you look in the mirror, that's the one person you can't lie to.
So how much of that can you actually relate to? How much of your life have you tried to fit into other people's ideas? How many years of your life have you tried to be someone that's not you, rather than actually looking at who you need to become? Who could you be? I love to ask this question of the people I coach. What's the greatest thing you will ever do? Perhaps the greatest thing you will ever do is do what David Goggins did, to reinvent yourself. He talks about when he was at school, when he started to wake up to the fact that he didn't have to be like everyone else, that he could sit on his own table, that he could create his own life, his own destiny. So for me, part of the accountability mirror is definitely stopping and looking. So let me ask you a question. How much of your life do you waste? Perhaps getting distracted, looking at too many things, starting things and not finishing them. How much of your life do you make excuses? You say you're going to do something and then you excuse yourself from doing that and you do something else. How much of your life do you spend procrastinating, putting things off, ruminating? And what he talks about, it's really important to look at this from a point of view of self-acceptance, self-compassion, rather than blaming and shaming yourself. That really isn't where the magic is. It's looking at the fact that you have probably done the best you've been able to do with what you've known at this time. But are you ready to change? And I think it all starts off with some form of accountability, some form of the truth. And what is the truth? Well, the truth is what's true for you. And one of the founders of Alcoholics Anonymous said that if you want to change, you've got to start off with the truth. And that starts with some form of accountability and honesty about where you are right now. David Goggins, to me, represents being a warrior in your life. And a warrior is someone who's actively engaged in a battle, actively engaged in a challenge. And I think we all have the same challenge. It's the voices in our head. The voice that wants to keep us where we are, the voice that doesn't want us to get uncomfortable, the part of us that just wants to stay within the zone of familiarity, the story, the narrative that is very familiar to us. What David Goggins represents to me is listening to that other voice, the voice of let's get up, let's keep going. And in his book, he refers to that voice so often that he could hear it, but he didn't pay attention. And the Romans called this part of us the genius. If you actually went and Googled the word genius and you look at its original meaning of the word, it means the moral authority, the part of you that wants you to keep on going, that wants you to grow, that wants you to get better. And there's another part of the book which I think is so wonderful, where he talks about bringing your best when you feel your worst. If you took a moment and you thought about all the people around the world right now who don't feel like doing something, and because they don't feel like it, they won't do it. Rather than bringing your best when you feel your worst, which is waking up to the challenge, waking up to what you're being called to do. Because it's only through doing what you don't feel like doing, breaking through those limitations, that what happens? That you grow, you get better, and you evolve. So take a moment and think about, where could you start to bring your best? Where could you start to commit that the worse you feel, the more committed you are to doing whatever it is that you need to do? And this is where we have to start changing. And again, this is what David Goggins talks extensively about being a victim. Because he says, no one's coming to rescue you. And it's very easy for us to have this victim mentality, rather than going from victim to hero. Being the hero in your own movie, being the hero in your own life. And I want you to take a moment now to listen to what David Goggins talks about when he talks about the film Rocky.
He kept fighting. He was a dumb fighter, couldn't read, couldn't write. That was me. He was in that corner and everybody was saying, stay the fuck down.
Down, down, stay down. Apollo dancing around with his arms in the air.
I wanted to be the guy that people looked at. I don't care if you liked me or didn't like, I don't care. But it said, this motherfucker is gonna keep coming after whatever the f is in front of him. I wanted that. I wanted that. I wanted that worse than anything in the world.
He quite clearly knows the person he wants to be. He wants to be the person that keeps bringing his best. He wants to be the person that keeps getting up. That's why we love to watch films. We love to watch the films because we identify with those characters that overcome adversity, that keep getting up. And you know what? It wasn't always like that for David Goggins, because there was a time in his life where he actually weighed 297 pounds. And he set a goal to run 4 miles, but he couldn't run 4 miles. All he could run was a quarter of a mile. But he went from being able to do that in 1999 to in 2007 to then actually running 205 miles in 39 hours. How did he do that? He applied the law of compounding and aggregating over time. For me, David Goggins is one of the greatest examples in the world of learning how to think greater than how you feel, and learning how to use your mind so you get to achieve your goals and your dreams and your ambitions. And I want you right now to take a moment to watch another video that we made about the greatest athlete of all time. If you're ready to take this to the next level, I want you to watch the success secrets of Muhammad Ali. Watch that video right now.